Today is June 2nd, 2016, and yes, indeed, we are running out of 2016. We've gone over constructs. The construct of the single mother, the single black mother, allegedly made by Jewish screenwriters, Jewish scriptwriters, television writers, producers, seducers, producers. Things happen. Yes, they do happen. And blame happens as much or more than things happening. But did you ever notice that these constructed mammies will never take blame for anything? Never. It's always someone else's fault. Always someone else's fault. And then the constructed black people will always launch into a tirade of things not knowing facts.
Maynard says Harambe's death is a blow to saving endangered species.
He was not quite at breeding maturity yet, but it'll be a loss to the gene pool of lowland gorillas. Gorillas are highly endangered. They come from Central and West Africa, and they're very tightly managed captive population for genetic reasons. So the loss of a breeding male is a big deal. But we will certainly continue our gorilla program. It's one of our most important programs.
What's going on YouTube? It's your boy Urban Legend. Check this out. If you haven't seen this yet or heard about it, basically a gorilla was killed at the Cincinnati Zoo because a little boy fell into his habitat or whatever. I mean, whatever exhibit. That's the word. And I mean, if you watch this, I mean, this isn't a live freaking reaction video. This isn't. I'm just putting my thoughts out about this. This is ridiculous. Let's just be honest. Like, this mother was not closely watching her child, and that's the main reason why he fell in there. And to be honest, this kid got lucky to survive. Let's all be honest, because if this was one in the wild, this gorilla could have done anything. Could have just ran off with the kid, and the kid would have been dismangled. You know, I gotta just make up words. Like, honestly, the kid would have been done, decimated, like arms, limbs, and everything just like torn off, because that's how strong a gorilla is. Let's just be honest with ourselves. And this is a little kid too, so go check out the real video. This shit's ridiculous. I don't even really know. Like, I saw it on Twitter and I was like, damn, that is ridiculous. And then I just saw news clips and all this other extra stuff. But yeah, like, the gorilla was killed though. I mean, damn. There's not that many gorillas in Africa left. Let's just be honest with ourselves. So anyways, I fucking hope they don't take another one and some other bullshit like this, because it's like, what is this really doing? Like, the fuck? Anyways, peace. Have a great day. I'm out.
When you have a group of women who hate their children, I'm going to gather some scripture on this. But these modern constructed slave managing mammies, they would take better care of the bosses. Play as a young mammy, single mother that I would go to college with for a box. I just can't be giving you these boxes, and way they'll watch the beans, and they'll count the beans more than they will exercise fiduciary. involving trust, especially with regard to relationship between trustee and a beneficiary. A parent has fiduciary, at the least, fiduciary responsibility. Something inspiring trust, credentials. A fiduciary responsibility is something that is just something in your care. If you are in a shark infested water, or if you're at the petting zoo, you may be able to exercise less care at a petting zoo. Not to say that you don't have to maintain fiduciary, but when you're like in a zoo with man-eating animals, with children eating animals, with animals that probably exercise more vigilance and more care than the actual parent, I believe that they need to see what kind of policies and insurance that baby has on it, because that mother didn't seem like she really cared. She was very relaxed. And mommy loves you. Ugh. This is another perspective.
You may have heard that a 4-year-old boy fell into a gorilla exhibit at the Cincinnati Zoo, causing zoo officials to kill the gorilla, the 400-pound endangered species, outraging the internet. But leave it to black people to bring racism into the bizarre equation. Have a look at what some of these lunatics were tweeting out. Killing an endangered gorilla at a zoo for a white boy's safety is white privilege. If the boy was black, they would have found a tranquilizer, tweets this twit. The gorilla was minding his own business. It's the mama's fault and the curious little white boy want to bother people. Black people don't even go by the rail, says this imbecile. White boy falls into a gorilla enclosure. Sounds like some parents aren't watching their kid and they climbed over. Let it be a white boy with that gorilla and it would have been okay that they shot it. But no, the gorilla life better than the little black kids, says this guy. The first video I see on Twitter after coming back, a gorilla dragging a little white boy. LMFAO. Never fails to disappoint. This guy's glad. He thinks it's funny that it was a white boy that almost died. For those 2 minutes that little white boy was in the exhibit, the gorilla took better care of him than his mother, tweets this twit.
All right. This is, I have to put this in here. It's a very short video. I'm going to use this all the time. The definition of white and black is so, this is why everybody's confused, because a shade here or there, and
you may think you know exactly what race you are, but how would you prove it if someone disagreed with you? The fact is, even though race drives a lot of social and political outcomes, race isn't real. One of the first people to attempt to categorize humans according to race was a German scientist around 1776. He came up with 5 different groups according to physical appearance and geographic origin of their ancestors. Americans of European descent eagerly bought into this type of thinking around the same time. Some historians have said the idea that there were different races helped them resolve the contradiction between a natural right to freedom and the fact of slavery. If whites were their own distinct category, then they could feel a lot better about denying freedom to people who they labeled black and decided were fundamentally different. But as political priorities change, definitions of race in America adjust right along with them. For example, if you were of Mexican birth or ancestry in the United States in 1929, you were considered white. Then, the 1930 census changed that to non-white to limit immigration. Later, when the U.S. needed to increase its labor force during World War II, these people were switched back to white. And what it took to be black once varied so wildly throughout the country, from 1/4 to 1/16 to the infamous 1 drop of African ancestry, that people could actually change races just by crossing state lines. Then, suddenly, in 2000, the government decided that Americans could be more than one race and added a multiracial category to the census. This has left many Americans scratching their heads when it comes to selecting who they are. As many as 6.2% of census respondents selected some other race in a 2010 survey. The idea that someone might look one way and identify another way, or that they might be really hard to place in a racial category, is not new. This is why there was a public debate about whether MSNBC's Karen Finney could say she was black, or how we can't even agree on the racial label assigned to the President of the United States. Of course, many people feel their racial identity is very clear and very permanent. But the fact that some people have changed theirs and that no one can really argue with them shows how shaky the very idea of race is. This is all because there isn't a race chromosome in our DNA that people can point to. It simply doesn't exist. When the medical community links race to health outcomes, it's really just using race as a substitute for other factors, such as where your ancestors came from, or the experiences of people who may have been put in the same racial group as you. Dorothy Roberts explains that sickle cell anemia is a prime example of this. The disease is linked to areas with high rates of malaria, which include some parts of Europe and Asia in addition to Africa. It's not actually about race at all. This, of course, does not mean that the concept of race isn't hugely important in our lives. The racial categories to which we're assigned can determine real-life experiences, they can drive political outcomes, and they can even make the difference between life and death. But understanding that racial categories are made up can give us an important perspective on where racism came from in the first place.
So, this guy is talking about not black people, but people who have been constructed and who have been programmed into everything by their mother, and to never, ever, ever blame the black woman. Never. No matter what she does. No matter what. No matter how ridiculous.
DC, that's idiot internet talk for I don't care, I believe. I don't care what anyone says. That little white boy should have been shot for threatening the gorilla's life, says this twit. This gorilla wasn't trying to die over a dumbass little white boy with stupid parents. Rip my dog, says this guy. If the gorilla knew they was kill him, he should have choked that little white boy, says this black dude. Yes, a couple more here. These are just a small sample of the huge number of racist, psychotic, paranoid, race-baiting psychos that are tweeting and somehow bringing race into this. I really feel bad for the gorilla, says this guy, who was living his life. The next thing you know, a white boy trespassing in his home, but he getting shot for it. The little white boy, when he realized he ended up in a gorilla cage. First of all, they could have tranquilized the gorilla. Secondly, WTF was that white boy doing? Well, first of all, the zoo officials said that the reason that they didn't use a tranquilizer dart is because it would have taken a few moments for it to set in and knock the gorilla unconscious, and as soon as it was hit, out of fear, it probably would have lashed out and struck the boy. Not to mention it's 400 pounds and could have collapsed and crushed the child. Secondly, the people who are saying that the gorilla was trying to protect the child didn't see the part in the video where it dragged the child probably 10 or 20 yards underwater in the fake riverbed. It could have smacked the child's head against the ground, easily killing him. So again, the internet was absolutely outraged about this tragic loss of this endangered species gorilla. But leave it to the black people and the Mexicans to blame the white people and bring racism into this tragic story. I'm Mark Dice. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to my YouTube channel here if you're new, and we will continue to expose the amazing paranoid racist delusions of the liberals and of the Black Lives Matter, Black Crimes movement, and other idiocy from the social justice wankers. So stay tuned. Brand new Memorial Day edition, Man on the Street Monday.
A day of panic and desperation at the Cincinnati Zoo.
We're getting a second run to the Cincinnati Zoo, and this is in a gorilla cage, and a 3-year-old child has fallen into the gorilla cage.
A 4-year-old boy slips into the zoo's gorilla habitat and over a moat wall. Suddenly, Harambe, a 17-year-old, 400-pound gorilla, approaches the boy. His mother watches in horror at what happens next.
Mommie's right here!
The young boy screams. The urgent calls to 911 can be heard on this bystander video. The family tries desperately to keep him calm as Harambe takes him out of sight. Harambe drags the boy around the moat and up a ladder for a total of 10 minutes, as the zoo's dangerous animal response team anxiously decides what to do next.
The little boy himself had already been talking about wanting to go in, get in the water, and his mother's like, no, you're not. I don't know if the screaming did it or too many people hanging on the edge, if he thought we were coming in, but then he pulled the boy down further away from the big group.
Engine 32. Start the police. The gorilla has the child and is dragging him around the pen.
Officials considered the incident so threatening, deciding Harambe must be taken down immediately.
The reason that tranquilizing was not chosen is in an agitated situation, which the male was, it may take quite a while for a tranquilizer to...
All of this because the fiduciary responsibility was completely ignored. Mommy's not here. Mommy's not here. Mommy's right here. I would not be shocked. And forgive me for judging, prognosticating, extrapolating. It wouldn't shock me if that mother was not culpable, if not criminally involved in her son being in that water, because in this demographic, this culture, no one despises their children more, at the very least monitors their children less than the so-called constructed Mammie black woman. No one.
But certainly at the instant he would be hit, he would have a dramatic response. You don't hit it and he falls over. I mean, it would take a few minutes. The child wasn't under attack, but all sorts of things could happen in a situation like that. So he certainly was at risk.
They say their only option? A rifle. Harambe was shot and killed. The child was taken to Cincinnati's Children's Hospital with non-life-threatening injuries.
We have rescued the child. Disregard everybody. Children have been notified for a trauma.
It's a sad day all the way around. The right choice was made. It was a difficult choice.
Harambe was a western lowland gorilla, a critically endangered species. The zoo had hoped he would eventually father other gorillas.
We love this zoo. It's very friendly. Everything is beautiful here. But when you see something like that and then you have the disappointment, because what do you say to your grandchildren?
All of a sudden, you heard the splash. Older gentlemen started yelling, "There's a child in there. There's a child." And everyone started screaming. So we just started capturing the video at that point.
Not the mother. The mother. Mommy's right here. Oh, that's so stupid, man. But don't blame her. Blame everything else.
And I was still taking a still shot at the same time as the larger gorilla was attracted to the screaming, and he just came barreling to the edge of the moat. And then he realized what was going on. Initially, when he approached the edge of the moat and he was looking down and everybody was screaming, we were trying to calm everybody down and get them to stop. But he disappeared. At a blink of an eye, he suddenly was down in the moat. He came up. Now, I didn't actually capture that part of the video where he knocks the child against the wall into the corner. And then where we start the video is where he's basically got the child in the corner. And we did get everybody calmed down for just a little bit. And then, of course, people started screaming, yelling. He dragged the child a little further down in the moat, and he stopped him for a little bit, almost looked like he was helping him, pulled his pants up, stood him up, and then all of a sudden everyone started screaming again, and he pulled him completely out down the other end of the moat. And then the next thing, he brought him up on top of the moat. At that point, I'd actually, someone else was then videoing. I went down to a clearing and could actually see, but I wasn't able to get video at that point. We were searching for him through the bushes, but we couldn't find him after that. I saw him then later, once he was on top of the habitat, dragging the boy, pulling him underneath of him. It was not a good scene. As the fireman had said, he at one point had him between his legs and was hovering over him and wasn't budging.
And did it look like, you said at some point it looked like he was trying to help him or protect him. The last you saw of the gorilla, did it look like he was being aggressive towards him? Did it look like he was trying to protect him from the other gorillas? Could you make out at all what the very last moment was?
Once he pulled him out of the moat and he dragged him up to the top of the habitat where it was all cement, he was being very aggressive. The boy did try to separate himself, and he pulled the boy back in, tucked him underneath, and really wasn't going to let him get away. And then when a security guard was in my peripheral, as I was trying to take another picture, he literally picked the boy up by his calf and dragged him towards another cave to basically get him out of the view of this crowd that hadn't yet dispersed.
When there's one of these mammies, it's no fun. When there's two, you better run. And when there's three, I will not be. I do my best. If one is from somewhere and I see like one or two or three, I leave. Check please, because I know some stupid ass shit like this is about to happen.
The mother of the 4-year-old boy who climbed into the gorilla enclosure is under siege today.
Happy birthday to you.
This is the mom, Michelle Gregg, cradling her son at his first birthday party.
Mommy's right here!
You can hear her voice on the disturbing video being seen around the world, trying to...
Mommy's right here and you're down there. I don't know how you got down there, but mommy's right here. Oh, it's so stupid.
...comfort her son as the 450-pound silverback gorilla named Harambe drags him across the moat.
Mommy loves you!
A cow has fallen into the gorilla cave.
Mommy loves you. Yeah, you can't tell.
In this new photo, you could see the tension of a zookeeper as she runs to lend assistance. Look at the gorilla and the boy behind her. An online petition, Justice for Harambe, calling for the mother to be prosecuted, has more than 300,000 signatures. Tens of thousands of people have taken to social media to demand she be investigated for child neglect. The woman who shot the now famous video says she heard the child tell his mom he was going into the enclosure.
I heard the exchange while I'm waiting. The little boy, I'm going to go in. No, you're not. I'm going to go in. No, you're not. The mother turns around to her other children.
The child's father, identified as Dion Dickerson, was not at the zoo with the rest of his family. This woman says she knows all about the onslaught of criticism Michelle Gregg is experiencing because she has the same name.
A lot of the messages were very rude. They were saying that I should have been the one to die and the gorilla should have lived.
The Michelle Gregg Under Siege posted a message defending herself. Society, we are quick to judge how a parent could take their eyes off their child. And if anyone knows me, I keep a tight watch on my kids. Accidents happen. We're also learning more about Harambe the gorilla. He just turned 17 years old the day before he was shot to death. He was born in captivity in a small zoo in Brownsville, Texas. This man won a contest to name him and chose a Swahili word.
It means to pull together, to help each other, sharing and caring, and come together.
Harambe was transferred to the Cincinnati Zoo in 2014. This video was shot on his first day in his new home. Now animal lovers are furious over the loss of this magnificent animal. But thank goodness, the little boy is alive.
See, one thing black women can do is take the fun out of everything. Or cause you to lose your job.
Review time, hot! First of all, very special announcement. This week is Animal Week. Let's go ahead and get a round of applause for Animal Week. I didn't hear nothing. Okay, maybe next time. What we got here today? We got a sad story about a gorilla named Harambe. Now, Harambe was doing like any other gorilla, trapped inside of a zoo, minding his own business. But then what happened? A little boy, bad little boy, talking about he want to go in the water. But the mother told him, no, you're not. No, you're not. And then somebody named O'Connor said after that they heard a splash, meaning that little joker jumped in the dang water right next to the 400-pound gorilla named Harambe. Now, I can't show you the footage because YouTube is going to say, you can't show that footage. That ain't your footage. You can't do it. But this is what it looked like. There go the little boy and there go the gorilla. Big old gorilla, little boy. Now, the gorilla's 17-year-old. The boy's 4 years old. When you look at the footage, it seemed as if the gorilla was trying to protect the little child. But you have to wonder how much a 400-pound gorilla can protect a child. The joker got muscles everywhere. Muscles on his hands. Can barely touch the kid and snap him right in half. So what they end up doing to this gorilla is they end up shooting him dead. Gorilla is gone. That's why you're seeing Rip Gorilla in loving memory of Harambe, a senseless death. And it was a senseless death. It's not like it's his fault that this little bad boy decided to jump down there. And then you have to look at the whole zoo situation. It's not his fault he was at the freaking zoo. What a miserable place for animals. They just sit there in this unnatural habitat while people just look at them. Just trapped. And then they gotta watch out for jokers jumping down there and getting them shot. Which is why you see outrage. See pages like Justice for Harambe. Facebook page currently has more than 11,000 likes. Dang. Let's click on it. Let's see what they're talking about. Justice for Harambe community. It's got 14,000 likes now. I would like to remind everyone that this page was established in an effort to honor the memory of Harambe and see justice done for this beautiful animal. Disrespect, rudeness, and any other form of inappropriate behavior will not be tolerated. You will not be warned or given a second chance, just like Harambe was. You will be deleted, banned, and blocked immediately if you are unable to keep your post civil. That is all. The founder has spoken. Who the heck is this joker? The founder? Kind of weird. Let's see it. Come on, no. Not sure why they killed me. I was doing a better job watching the latest kid than she was. Ooh, ouch. I think there's some truth to that statement. And look, we even got a petition talking about signed to support Harambe's law. Let's look at that. See what they're talking about. Dang, they almost reached the 10,000 needed to support Harambe's law for the gorilla killed in Cincinnati. In light of the recent tragedy at the Cincinnati Zoo and the death of western lowland gorilla Harambe, and the enormous loss of this critically endangered animal, we would like to pass Harambe's law so there are legal consequences when an endangered animal is harmed or killed due to the negligence of visitors. If this law is enacted, it will not only protect the animals,
but will hold individuals accountable for actions resulting in harm or death of an animal. So what the heck do they mean with this? No one wants to see, yeah, nobody wants to see that. Okay, it says that we like to enact. If any time, the negligent party or parties be held financially and criminally responsible for any harm or loss to an animal, specifically when said animal is critically endangered. I don't know if I agree with Harambe's law. And why I say that is because you really don't know how far the government would go with that. Like how much they would make the fine or how long they would put you in jail. I don't like that they killed the gorilla. Really, it's not his fault. You say you could use a tranquilizer in this situation, but how quick will it work? Remember, that gorilla could barely touch the kid and kill him. You have to think, what if it was your kid? And yes, the parents are idiots for not keeping the kid in check. But what does all this craziness boil down to? This is a product of man messing with nature. So the video is over, but it ain't all the way over. If you haven't subscribed to
This is another story of a casualty of when there's no fun. Lady brings her child to work and doesn't watch him, and somebody else feels the burn. Not Bernie Sanders.
All right, everybody, all hour we're talking about race, and before the break we heard from David and Rochelle, who are paying a heavy price for racially charged
Warning, single blameless mother ahead.
that they made online. I forgave them, of this post that recently went viral. Please welcome Sydney. Sydney, tell us what happened.
That's Caden. That's my son in the picture. I'm a single mother. I work at a marketing group, and about a month.
I'm a single mother. Caden. I hate when they do that. That's the way they point.
That's Caden. That's my son in the picture. I'm a single mother. I work at a marketing group, and about a month ago, a former coworker of mine posted that picture to Facebook with Caden in the background, and a few of his friends took it and started making a bunch of racial comments about it, and he then joined in. I really don't understand why this happened to my son.
So what did they say?
There were there were a couple of references to slavery. People went as far as calling him Toby and Kunta Kinte and Sambo. One person asked, "Where the hell did you get a black kid?" Somebody else said, "The black market." And then my coworker joined in referring to Caden as feral, which is pretty much calling him a wild animal.
No, he's not a wild animal. His mother just doesn't care or have any etiquette about bringing a child to work and letting the child run around. They're never going to say it's their fault. It's everybody else's fault. The liberal agenda, the manufacturers of the so-called single black mother, they'll never blame her. They blame everybody else.
His co-worker was fired. We invited him to be here, but he declined. Sydney, what was your reaction?
They get everybody fired. They get people killed. They kill. And they're blameless. Where there's one, there's no fun. Where there's two, you better run. And where there's three, I will not be. The white guy behind there, he should have just went on break and just let the child do whatever he was going to do. Don't make eye contact with them. Do not argue with them. Leave when they come. Don't go where they go. Don't believe me. Don't believe anybody else. Make your own videos. Do your own research. Good night.